The powerful but arrogant god Thor is cast out of Asgard to live amongst humans on Earth, where he soon becomes one of their finest defenders. This is my review of Thor. So if you guys don't already know yet, then you should know that I'm doing all the Marvel Phase 1 movies and reviewing them before Avengers Age of Ultron comes out in May. And the next movie on my list is Thor, and after rewatching Thor a few months ago, I have to say that I still think that the movie's good. The good points. The best thing about this movie would have to be the acting by 3 actors. And those 3 actors would be Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, and Anthony Hopkins. And Hemsworth plays Thor, Hiddleston plays Loki, and Hopkins plays Odin. Just out of the entire cast, it seems like those 3 actors were the highlights of the entire cast. I also think that other actors such as Idris Elba and others had their moments in the movie, but I just think that those 3 actors that I named were the best out of the entire movie. And I say that they were the highlights because they showed their acting chops the most in this movie. Next, I'll have to say that the production and costume designs are good, and all of it has to do with the world of Asgard and how it's presented in the movie. Because in the movie, it's presented in a way where it looks like this is where gods would live. Because the settings on Asgard looked like something where people would live in ancient times. And the clothes that the Asgardians were wearing looks like something that people from ancient times would wear as well. I also have to say that this movie is the first Marvel Cinematic Universe movie where I noticed the score of the movie. In Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man 2, I noticed some pieces of the score, but not the entire thing, while in this movie, I almost noticed the entire score that was happening in the movie. And I think that's due to the fact that it just fitted really well with the scenes that it had. And some pieces of the score were catchy as well. And the 2 pieces of the score that I liked the most were called Sons of Odin, and I can't remember what the other one was called, but it was the theme for Thor. The directing by Kenneth Branagh was good in this movie, and the same thing goes with the writing of this movie. I thought it was good. I guess I didn't like the entire story in a way, but I did like the story when it either had Thor or Loki because of their character developments in the movie. The visual effects were done well in this movie too. And honestly, I didn't really see any moments where I thought some effects could have been tweaked or changed. I thought that they were either just right or better than just right. The editing and pacing of this movie was done well too because of its smooth fashion. And I didn't really notice any moments where some of the scenes could have been replaced with other scenes or the transitions were weird. I thought everything was okay or good for what it did. And the final good point I have to say about this movie would have to be the post-credits scene, and I'll explain why I like the post-credits scene later on in the spoiler section. The bad points. What I didn't like about this movie was the time frame that the story took place in. And by that I mean that this story would have taken place within 2 or 3 days. And with all the events happening within that 2 or 3 day span, it just seemed a little bit unbelievable. And the thing that was the most unbelievable was the relationship between Thor and Jane Foster. And once you see the movie, I think you'll know what I mean. Because where their relationship goes at the end of this movie, you wouldn't really think that would happen. Since again, this is taking place within 2 or 3 days. But hey, I guess that's a little bit of a problem with the editing and pacing as well. It sort of just rushed through their relationship a little bit. And maybe that's why it seemed unbelievable. There was definitely some of the directing, writing, and acting that could have been done a little bit better. And most of the issues that I had with those 3 aspects would be with some of the comedic moments, because the comedic timing seemed a little bit off with those moments. And don't get me wrong, there were some moments where there were good laughs, but there were other moments where it was like, that seemed a little bit awkward, or I just didn't get that joke or whatever, it just fell flat for me. And really the only other thing that I have to mention that was a little bit bad about this movie was some of the camera work. Because I guess Kenneth Branagh wanted a lot of Dutch angles, which I guess are the tilted angles that you see in movies. And most of the time when those angles were used, it just seemed a little bit weird because it's like, I don't know why you would need that. Because it's not really adding any tension or it's not building up the drama in any way. And it's pointless to use those angles if they're not going to be used in some sort of fashion to add to the story or something. And there was some camera work with the action scenes that I thought could have been done a little bit better. So my rating for Thor is going to be a 3 out of 4 stars. I think this is a good superhero movie. And in general, I think it's a good movie as well. And if you're into action or superhero movies or fantasy movies, then I think you'll enjoy the movie. Alright, spoilers. If you haven't seen Thor yet, then get over now because I'm going to be spoiling the ending for you and the post-credit scene for you. So if you still want to know what happens at the end and what happens during the post-credit scene, then get out of here now. In the post-credit scene, we have Dr. Selvig walking through this facility and he's asking some people like why he's there. And all of a sudden we have Nick Fury coming out and he's like, I'm impressed with your work in New Mexico. And then Nick Fury and Dr. Selvig have this little conversation about the events that happened with Thor when he was in New Mexico. And then we see Nick Fury getting this briefcase out and putting it on his table. And he opens it and it shows this blue cube. Then Selvig is like, what is it? And then Nick Fury is like, power. And if we can harness it, maybe infinite power. And the camera is on Selvig's right side so that we can see the reflection of him on the wall. And then all of a sudden, in the reflection, we see Loki walking in. When I saw this post-credit scene for the first time, I was wondering how did he survive that fall? But anyways, Loki's in the reflection and he's looking at the cube. Loki's in the reflection looking at the cube, and then he looks at Selvig and says, well, I guess that's worth a look. And then the next thing that Selvig says is, well, I guess that's worth a look. So right there, I knew that Loki was controlling Selvig since he was saying the same things that Loki was. But I like this post-credit scene because it added mystery as to how did Loki survive the fall, and what's this blue cube that's in his briefcase, and how can it hold infinite power. So that's my review for Thor. Hope you guys liked it, and other than that, guys, that's it.